You know how we say like the Saints go marching in? Hurricane Katrina came marching into New Orleans. So, when did this happen? Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast on August 29th, 2005, becoming one of the most devastating natural disasters in U.S. history. We've been seeing a lot of these models lately with our hurricanes, but take a look at where Hurricane Katrina started. Do you know what state this is?
New Orleans.
It's New Orleans.
LA.
It's not a state.
LA.
It's not. The abbreviation is LA, but it's Louisiana. This is the state of Louisiana, and New Orleans is right there. So Katrina made landfall at 6 a.m. on August 29th. Here's the model. Here's the picture of what that hurricane looked like from above. Much of New Orleans was submerged. What does it mean to be submerged? Underwater. Look at this. These are people's homes. The hurricane caused over 1,800 deaths and resulted in more than $100 billion in damage. 80% of the city was underwater at its peak. 80%.
It's actually the New Orleans government that's blamed.
Do you know what a levee system is?
Yes.
No.
Yes. It's a wall that stops flooding.
Take a look at this lovely neighborhood.
Ooh.
A nice neighborhood where you drive around and whatever, and take a look at it after.
What is that Hey, look! One house is still good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of residents were evacuated, many to neighboring states.
Too many.
Look at this.
They
Up to
reached-
their roofs. What happened to the Saints? The Superdome, which is where the New Orleans Saints play, became a refuge for thousands of people who were stranded after the storm.
What's a refuge?
Where people, so like,
Take
you know how
shelter.
like shelter, it's like a shelter. Sometimes during hurricanes, if you're in an area that's like a mandatory evacuation, there was a lot of neighborhoods in Tampa that were mandatory evacuation. Like you were not allowed to stay home. Even if you're like, I'm staying home. It's like, stay home and you might not live to see the next day. Mandatory evacuation means it is not safe for you to be in your home. So people would take refuge inside the Superdome. Conditions inside the Superdome deteriorated. What does it mean to deteriorate?
Messed up.
Messed up. They started to fall apart. They started to not be, the conditions weren't great. The Saints were relocated. With the Superdome unusable, the Saints were forced to play their entire 2005 season on the road. They did not have one home game.
Wow.
They could not play one home game. With home games, so their home games were held in San Antonio, Baton Rouge, and even New York. So in 2005, they didn't get to play one game in their home because it was destroyed. And look, people started to rally around the Saints because of how horrible. Mi casa es su casa, like welcome Saints, you're welcome here, my house is your house, trying to make them feel like they could come here and feel welcome here, even though it wasn't their home. They were playing there. This is their first game home. Their first game after Hurricane Katrina took everything from this city of New Orleans. The Saints finally got to return home and play their first game after. And this is what happened.
They're here for the return.
How do you look at them? How are they feeling? Look at them.
Happy.
Almost
The Saints are coming. Rebirth.
here. The NFL, the Saints, in New Orleans.
Let me tell you something.
Cheerleaders,
This is a city that didn't think that this would ever happen. Now, years later, we know. But imagine being here at this game, not knowing a year prior if A, your city was ever going to recover, or B, if your team was ever going to return. And now they're back.
Did they win?
Just
Points of which that is the most significant. Listen to this crowd. Lisa, who was a big special teams presence the last 2 years, came up with the ball.
For those people who look to the New Orleans Saints as
memorable moment because
It was only 10.
that block kick symbolized strength and hope, and that out of darkness, out of rain comes a rainbow, right? That Hurricane Katrina utterly destroyed the Saints and their hometown. But when they returned, they showed that we can start to move in a positive direction. We can start to gain our strength back. We're not broken. We can survive. We are stronger than that. Super Bowl 44 champions. Just 4 years after Hurricane Katrina in 2010, the Saints won their first ever Super Bowl.
Oh, I watched the movie though.
A significant moment of pride for New Orleans. The victory united the city and its people, providing hope and a sense of triumph. After years of recovery and rebuilding, they showed that you can rise above. You can have strength. You can come back. You can do it. You can do anything. Doesn't matter how many things try to knock you down. You can get back up. And the city did it. The team did it. And then they won a Super Bowl champion. Their first ever.
And the Saints go marching in. Oh, wonderful to be in the number.
No one drafted the Saints.
So why was we the same? Anyways, because they're so kind.
But the Saints sent us a package anyways. Even though none of us drafted the Saints, we still talk about them in our weekly recaps. We talk about them because they're playing the Broncos. Some of your teams will play the Saints, and they're still part of our conversation. But look at me. This kindness has no benefit to them. They're not, right? Nobody drafted them, but they did it anyways. And I think this is a really cool thing that they decided to give us even some things so that we could feel the pride and the strength of what it means to be a New Orleans Saint. And, you know, actually this year, did you know that the Saints are hosting the Super Bowl?
What?
So the Super Bowl will be held at the Superdome in New Orleans this year. So we will get to learn a lot more about the Superdome and all about New Orleans once the Super Bowl comes. And they've got a really cool history. Notice how far kindness can go. Notice how more empowering kindness is than hate. Notice how you feel when these teams reach out, and we should be wanting to share that kindness with each other and with others, right? Because kindness is always the answer to walking in the door. Okay, they gave us a little gumbo, their mascot. So we a little Saints football for the class. Some stickers for the Saints that I will maybe put in our treasure box. All of us will get a Saints pen, so all of you will get a pen for the Saints. These are called Mardi Gras beads. Now, New Orleans has something called Mardi Gras. So the Saints say, "Who dat? Who dat? Who dat?" No, who dey is what the Bengals say, but the Saints say, "Who dat?" What do we say to the Saints? Thank you. Enjoy this moment. Really cool gesture that they did because they did not have to do this, and none of these teams have to do this.
I will draw.